Hello, this is Ronnie from the UK Fruitfest and from YouTube. And on this channel, we talk about raw food, my raw food journey, and health issues connected with that. And what I want to talk about in this little video is a post I recently wrote on the Fruitfest blog, and it's called What's Wrong with the Wikipedia page on Fruitarianism. And I think you might want to check out that blog so you can read it in more detail. But essentially, for years I've looked at the Wikipedia page on fruitarianism, on raw vegan, and sometimes I've tried to edit it or change it because I've seen things that that I could maybe edit or change. And it always got changed back almost straight away. It never allowed things to be edited. And I was curious about that. And I always kind of thought we should try and get that changed. And I never really done anything about it. But I thought I would go through the page to see the quality of the sources, because obviously if I'm putting up stuff and it gets deleted, then the quality of the sources that it's using that are on the page must be really strong. And so I started going through the page and I started to click on the sources and reading the sources, and I just realized, and I'm no scientific expert, but there was often things that didn't have any science quoted. There wasn't any science quoted. There was articles written that were just articles of opinion written by people that had, a vague interest in the diet. Not experts, but had a vague interest. There was some bits quoted from books that I couldn't really get access to. There were some bits quoted from other articles. So it was articles from newspapers reporting different things. And there was a Columbia University website. But it was a really bad. It was just an opinion, really, on a Columbia University website thing called Ask Alice, which I don't really know what that is. And it didn't refer to any science, it didn't refer to anything, and it was just a nutritionist talking about, yeah, a fruitarian diet would be bad for this, this, and this. And I'm just thinking, well, they're not an expert, they've not researched it, they've not tried it out. So why is this the source that Wikipedia is happy to put up to condemn this diet? And then further down the page, what you find is adherence to the raw vegan diet or the fruitarian diet, and famous people that have done the fruitarian diet. And this is where it gets really weird, because in the kind of adherence to the raw vegan diet, the fruitarian diet, there's a guy called, the first name that comes up is August Engelbrecht. August Engelbart Brecht. And this is a guy that was definitely not fruitarian, because he called himself a koikovore, which was a coconut eater. He was literally trying to live on coconuts. Now, you might think all these crazy ideas are new. This guy was living over 100 years ago, a German guy. He went over to, I believe it was Indonesia. Maybe you can check me, I'm wrong, check me. And he tried to create a fruit paradise, kind of like a paradise over there. So there's people now trying to create fruitarian paradises across the world and all that. And that's not a new thing, right? So we all have that in us in a little way. We want to find our own piece of paradise. And he found a place, I think, and he tried to live on coconuts. And he talked about coconuts being the best food. And at one time, Ted Carr was doing a coconut water fast. And I think I sent him this, and for a while he called himself a cocovore. And so but he's not a fruitarian, right? And it's kind of a weird reference why he would be there. There was also the other people that were there. There was mention of people like Maurice Crock, Johnny Love Wisdom, Victoris Kulvinskas. These are all guys from like the 70s raw food scene, the 70s, maybe the 80s. I mean, obviously Victoris Kulvinskas is still alive, and maybe Johnny Love was, I'm not sure, but they really were, they were kind of maybe leaders or well known or authors or whatever back then. That's when they were kind of doing their thing a little bit and writing books and doing stuff. Victoris Kulvinskas wasn't a fruitarian and never said he was a fruitarian, as far as I know. I think he kind of argued against it a little bit, and I think he does. Maurice Crock, potentially. but probably wasn't 100% fruitarian. And Johnny Love Wisdom I don't know much about. But no one really talks about these guys in the fruitarian movement and the raw vegan movement. No one refers back to the great writings of Johnny Love Wisdom, or I mean, some people might mention Maurice Crock a little bit, but um, his work doesn't seem to have really lasted the test of time in a sense. I mean, not to be critical because I've not actually read his books, but it's not like people have encouraged me to read those books when I got into this movement. So there was those guys, and a few others mentioned, and then it went down to the kind of historical adherence of the fruitarian diet, and this is where it got really weird because it was the first person mentioned is Idi Amin. I mean, obviously that's because it's alphabetical order, I guess, but Idi Amin is the first person mentioned as a world famous fruitarian. Now, I've never heard of anyone talking about Idi Amin as a fruitarian in any context, apart from on this Wikipedia page. And I've not seen any evidence of it, and everything else. And Idi Amin, if you don't know, was a dictator that ran the African country of Uganda. And if you've seen The Last King of Scotland, which is a film about that situation, and Idi Amin did things like they basically threw out the Indians that were living in Uganda. So there was Indian people living in Uganda, and he just threw them all out. So he did stuff like that, and that's why there was a lot of Indians came to the UK at that point because they were given asylum in the UK, I believe, and because they just threw them out, and it was kind of a British problem a little bit because Uganda was sort of connected with the British Empire, as was India. So, but he did stuff like that. He was a brutal dictator, like a brutal dictator, killed people, was famous for like killing people and mismanaged the economy and all this stuff. And I think he was thrown out of Uganda or whatever at one point because he ended up in Saudi Arabia, and they say he ended up on a fruitarian diet. I can't even imagine this guy becoming a fruitarian, right? So I'm very dubious about Idi Amin being a fruitarian, but Wikipedia is quite happy to put it up there, like, or whoever's editing that page. Steve Jobs, we know he was a fruitarian, but I think it kind of connects him with the idea of like the whole. Well, no, that's later on. Steve Jobs, yeah, clearly we know he experimented with a fruitarian diet. He didn't do it long term. He didn't do it for life. He ended up with cancer, and I think he might have tried to do the raw vegan diet again when he got cancer, but anyway, whatever. So that's true. And then Ben Klassen. Now, I've never heard of this guy once again. Never heard anyone mention him in the raw food scene, the fruitarian scene. He was the leader of a white supremacist church. The leader of a racist white supremacist church called the Church of Creation or something. Who's ever heard of this guy? How is this guy famous or well known? But they put him on the Wikipedia page for Fruitarianism. And Gandhi. Okay, so Gandhi did do a fruitarian diet. So kind of well-known people. They also mentioned Ashton Kutcher, and Ashton Kutcher is a really interesting story here because he obviously played Steve Jobs. So he experimented with the fruitarian diet, and he said like he had to get rushed to hospital, and his pancreatic levels were all out of whack, and he kind of implied, and that's worrying because that's what Steve Jobs died of. Like, this is all nonsense, right? There's no connection between fruit and pancreatic cancer. No connection. Every single cancer charity will tell you to increase fruit because eating more fruit reduces your risk of getting cancer. But they're happy to quote that on the Wikipedia page, and that's going to make people think, oh yeah, I shouldn't do this because Ashton Kutcher's told me that his pancreatic levels were whatever he meant by that, his pancreas levels were all out of whack. And the weird thing about that whole scenario is Ashton Kutcher was married maybe at the time or connected to Demi Moore. Demi Moore has actually done coaching and training with Dr. Doug Graham from the 80-10-10 diet, Demi Moore. Fascinating, eh? So how did Ashton do a fruitarian diet, and at no point Demi Moore said, "Oh, by the way, I tried this one time. I ate a mostly fruit diet one time. Here's how you do it." Why did she never like pop in and say that? And if you want to know how did Doug Graham know Demi Moore, it's because he went to college with with Bruce Willis. This true story. He went to college with Bruce Willis. Um, so that's the story. But so how did Ashton Kutcher not get some advice, or it just doesn't add up, that story really. So anyway, so the Wikipedia page of Fruitarianism, if you want to go and look at that article in a bit more detail, fruitfest.co.uk, you can search Fruitfest blog. I'd love it if you share it around in a few groups or anyone you like to read it, and give me some feedback on it. I think it's quite well written, and I've researched it quite well and everything. So let's try and get that changed. If any of you know how to do that, let's start to discuss that and see if we can do it as a little task, a little project that we can all work on. And yeah, let's get a more positive image out there, because I don't think that we can really prove that Idi Amin was a fruitarian. However, someone who has been a fruitarian long term, Anne Osborne, 27 years of fruitarian, and she has been included in The Sun recently. The Sun has done an interview with her. It's on the website. I don't know if it's in the newspaper, but it's certainly, it's spreading that story to a wider audience. So check out that. That's also on our blog at Fruitfest. And if you want more information about Fruitfest, you can sign up for our free recipe book, Fruitfest recipe book, and you can do that on fruitfest.co.uk, and we'll send you out more information about Fruitfest in due course. If you would like to learn more about going on a raw food diet, you'd like to maybe get some advice and coaching and help, I do offer coaching programs. If you click on the link below, there'll be a different link if that's what you're interested in, and you'll find more information about my coaching program. So thank you very much for coming to this channel, for watching this video, for giving me your attention. Feel free to like the video, feel free to share it with other people, and if you want to subscribe for more videos, we are going to be doing more videos on being successful on a raw vegan diet and getting healthier and everything connected with that. So thank you very much for subscribing to the channel. I'll see you in the next video.